everyone, sorry for not being very active these last few weeks. My other jobs have just kind of taken over and so I haven't had a chance to post. I actually started filming this video about a month ago, but I'm only getting around to cracking on with it now, so I apologise if it's a little bit choppy, but I hope you find it useful. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. For anyone that's new here, my name's Claire and this is Joli. And in today's video, we're going to take you through everything you need to know about string of hearts. Really quickly, if you're not already subscribed to my channel and want to see more videos on plant care, tips and tricks, plant styling, plant DIY, and much more, then, and Joli of course, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and you will be subscribed. So this is my string of hearts plants. I've been getting a lot of questions about them recently, so I thought I'd make a little care video and tell you how to keep them happy and healthy, and also show you how to propagate them as well to make new little baby plants. I can never pronounce their Latin name. Ceropegia Woodii? Ceropegia Woodii. But they're most commonly known as string of hearts, chain of hearts, sweetheart vine, or rosary vine. They're actually non-toxic, they're perfect if you've got children or pets. But that being said, they're probably one of the most tempting to play with, and they are very fragile, so definitely make sure that they're kept well out of reach. The first thing I want to talk about when it comes to these plants is watering, just because I feel like that is the area where quite a lot of people can sometimes go wrong and not find the right balance. Although they're not a succulent, they're what's known as a semi-succulent, which basically just means that they like to be treated in the same way as a succulent. Because of this, it means that they absolutely hate sitting in soggy or damp soil. The most important thing with these plants is to let their soil almost completely dry out before you rewater. A lot of people ask how frequently that is, like is it once a week, is it twice a week you should be watering? And I always say it really just depends on the environment of your home. So for example, if somebody's got a plant in a really bright, hot, sunny house and someone else has got the same plant in a dim, colder house, then they're obviously going to require different amounts of water at different times. So yes, monitor the soil would be my #1 piece of advice for watering. And also, if you're not quite sure if your plant's ready for a water or not, if you're kind of on the fence, then I would personally recommend going away for a few days, coming back and then watering. I wouldn't say that with every plant, but this one is so drought tolerant. I've never ever heard of one dying from not having enough water, within reason obviously, but I've heard of so many that have died from overwatering. So yeah, underwatering is always better than overwatering. With the conditions I've got my one in, I tend to water every oh dear. I'm pretty certain Joli's asking to go out, so I will be back. Sorry for the interruption. We are now continuing with the video 4 weeks after I started filming it, but my string of hearts is actually now flowering. So, tangled. Don't know if you can see those little flowers. So it's worked out quite well, really. So what I started saying was, with the environment of my house, I will tend to water my string of hearts probably every week and a half to 2 weeks, but I'll just make sure to monitor the soil in between that anyway. And a massive factor as to whether or not they're going to need more or less water is how much natural light they're getting. These ones absolutely love bright light. They won't do well in kind of hours and hours of direct sun because it can cause their leaves to burn, but they're not as sensitive to that as some other plants. Like if they were to get 4 hours of sunlight a day, they're probably not going to complain. I've got my one in a north-facing conservatory, so she'll get kind of bright indirect light for the majority of the day, and then as the sun moves around she does get some direct sunlight, but it's not too harsh for her. So yeah, bright indirect light is best for these ones. If you live somewhere that doesn't get a lot of natural light, then it's probably worth investing in some grow lights, just because if they don't get enough light they can start to look really thin and stretched and kind of leggy and not as full and healthy and bushy as you want them to be looking. I tend to fertilise my string of hearts kind of every other time I water in what's known as growing season, which is the spring and summer months. I will link in the description below the fertiliser that I like to use, but also with these ones, just opting for any kind of succulent or cactus fertiliser is absolutely fine. Fertilising your plants during growing season just kind of helps to give them all the nutrients they need to support healthy growth. And also if they're flowering plants like these ones, it can help them to produce flowers. Over fertilizing, something you do just have to be a little bit wary of. It happens a lot. I think people sometimes just assume that if they give it a little bit extra, then the plant will grow even better, but the instructions are there for a reason. So if you over fertilize, chances are you will stunt the growth of your plants. You might notice kind of markings appearing on the leaves. That's known as fertilizer burn. You don't want to do it, basically. So make sure you always read the instructions. When it comes to temperature, these ones are pretty chilled. As I mentioned before, they're semi-succulents, so they cope really well in higher temperatures. It's advised that you keep them between about 16 and 29 degrees Celsius, but I know for a fact there's been times where mine has been in, well, actually higher and lower conditions, but I was going to say particularly higher, and she's been absolutely fine. As with a lot of houseplants, I would just kind of say make sure that the temperature stays as steady as possible and doesn't kind of fluctuate too much, because that can send them into shock. Also, when it comes to things like drafts, they don't enjoy drafty areas, so make sure they're away from doors, windows, drafty vents, etc., etc. Someone was actually asking me about drafts the other day because I mentioned it in one of my other videos, and it can basically just cause the leaves of your plant to drop, turn yellow. It's just not very good for them, really. They don't enjoy it. It's like us living in a really drafty house. It wouldn't be very nice. Humidity wise, these ones cope really well in kind of moderate humidity levels, so about 40%-ish, which is pretty standard for most homes. They're not too fussy if it drops slightly lower. They're not a plant that requires lots of extra humidity like some others. So yeah, they're pretty relaxed when it comes to humidity. Propagating these plants is so easy. You can either propagate them if you want to just make some new little baby plants, or you can take cuttings and you can plant them back into the top of the soil, so your plant will be kind of fuller and bushier. But also, if you've overwatered your plant or it's just not looking very healthy, you can actually take cuttings from the good bits and propagate them in order to save your plant. There are two main ways to propagate these plants, the first being moss propagation and the second being water propagation. I personally have always had a higher success rate from water propagation, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So you're going to need a little container of water. If you can use rainwater, then that's great because it's much purer for propagating. And then just take a really clean, sharp pair of scissors and just chop a small section of the vine. These two leaves here are attached to something called a node, which is where the roots will grow from. So just carefully cut these leaves off, being careful not to cut too close and disturb the node. Then you can just pop your cutting into water. Leave it in a warm, bright spot and you'll notice your roots start to appear. You can take multiple cuttings if you're wanting to produce a whole new plant. The same method applies, just make sure that the ends you propagate are closer to the root end of the mother plant and not the end of the vine. You can also add rooting solution to your water to speed up the process slightly, but this is totally optional. If anyone's got any questions, then let me know in the comments below and I will do my best to help. If you found this video useful, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. Have a lovely week everyone, and I will see you in the next video.